Hi, and welcome to On Point Stocks and Options Trading. My name is Lloyd Logan Boucher. You can all call me Logan. And this is not the typical video I would put out, but this is an incredibly interesting video, and I think every single person should watch this till the end. This video is a conversation in regards to COVID, but also what's called a Universal Basic Income Program, World Debt Reset Program, and Total Debt Relief Program. Okay. Now, this is alleged to be true. I don't know this for a fact. I'm simply reproducing this for you, and obviously this doesn't share my opinions in any shape or way. But what's in here is rather terrifying, and to think that this is a potential is incredibly disturbing. You got to watch it to the end to get the full details of it. And it's definitely a worthwhile watch. I mean, this is probably the best 8 minutes of your life in terms of getting a perception of what could happen in a world that goes wrong with this COVID and the current environment and the massive amounts of debt that all the countries are taking. So I wanted to watch this. I want to remind you this is not my opinion in any way, but it is disturbing and it actually makes me kind of concerned as to what may be happening because we do see some pretty disturbing things happening in the government here in Canada and of course abroad and obviously shedding into the United States probably soon anyways. So here we go. Enjoy the video and leave your comments below. There we go.
Something that's happening in Canada. The subject was leaked email from Liberal Party of Canada lays out the plan for what's going to happen in November, December, and then the first and second and third quarters of 2021. Now, this is not based upon what a person's opinion is or conjecture is. This is based upon what actually happened at a meeting in the legislative bodies on the Liberal side in Canada. So here's what it comes down to. The roadmap and aim was set out by the PMO and is as follows. And I hate looking down when I'm reading this, so let me see if I can read it this way. All right. Phase in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding outward. Expected by November 2020. Next one, rush the acquisition of or construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory, expected by December 2020. These are concentration camps they're talking about. Daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing. Interesting that they already know that they're going to surge, right? Why? Because they know that if there is such a virus out there, assuming that there's a real virus out there, the testing is already it's already predetermined. They're testing, they're attenuating, they're basically amplifying the RT-PCR test to the point that every human being will test positive. That's what their goal is. All right, so the daily new cases of COVID will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in COVID-related deaths following the same growth curves, expected by end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first and second rolling phase restrictions, expected by end of December 2020, early January 2021. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected by Q1 2021. Projected COVID-19.
All right, so I got to pause this real quick. I don't know how it's going in other countries, but at least in Canada, because of everybody being forced into unemployment, the government has created what's called CERP, which is, I can't even remember what it pronounces or what it stands for. But what they're doing is they're paying everybody $2,000 a month to kind of survive through this time while they're not on unemployment. This is a subsidy for a substitute for unemployment and also just to help people make their bills. Not that everybody can make their bills on $2,000 a month, obviously. This universal basic income program would be something that would kind of replace that, I assume, where they would kind of have like a standardized structure of payment for every single person um, and just kind of shut everything down. I assume that's kind of the way I'm taking it. So let's see if that's correct.
Mutation and or co-infection with secondary virus referred to as COVID-21, leading to a third wave with much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection, expected by February 2021. Daily new cases.
So this means they're expecting a second virus mutation to come out in 2021 that's supposed to be worse than the original. It's interesting that they would have this information. How did this information come about, right? So are they hiding stuff from us that we don't know about, perhaps? Maybe they, obviously they know a lot more than we do. They have all the details. They just may not be releasing it to try not to create public, fear or panic. Um, and if they're anticipating this, then maybe this is why they're looking at these types of measures, because this is pretty dramatic.
Cases of COVID-21 hospitalizations and COVID-19 and COVID-21 related deaths will exceed medical facility capacities expected by by Q1, Q2 of 2021. Enhanced lockdown restrictions referred to as third lockdown will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, expected by Q2 2021. Guys, understand.
Now, this is not unheard of. This actually happened in Australia, where you couldn't even travel from one city to another city. Intercity lockdowns, inter-travel lockdowns, obviously heard of those. Provincial and city lockdowns, this has already been imposed in different countries. So, that means Canada, and that would probably in default then mean the United States, is going to get worse according to this.
That means that if you're in British Columbia, you can't go to Quebec. All right, this is what they're talking about. And if you're in one city,
not that anybody wants to go to Quebec, just FYI.
And you're trying to go into another city in the same province, they're not going to allow you to do that. This is in Canada. Of course, they're going to try to roll this out, and I'll get to that point here in a second. Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected mid-Q2 2021. Projected supply chain breakdowns in inventory storage, large economic instability, all expected late Q2 2021. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas as well as all major roadways to establish travel checkpoints, restrict travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area, expected by Q3 2021. Along with that provided roadmap, the Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavor, one that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of Canadians. All right, guys, this is where it gets really disturbing, as if it's not already disturbing. What we are told was that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. So people are getting excited about that. That sounds good, but wait. This is how it works. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, all mortgages, all loans, all credit cards, etc., which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program.
All right, so everybody's going to be excited about not having to pay your mortgage, of course, right? I'm sure people would be very stoked about that. Credit card debt, hey, let's rack them up beforehand. But then we got to do what? What do we have to do in exchange for total debt relief?
In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever.
All right, so to get yourself out of debt, you just got to give everything that you own away. I find this hard to believe, but here it is. And so if let's imagine this happened, if they told us that we would be able to forfeit all of our debt, our mortgages and everything, but we have to give everything to the government to do so, where do we live? What do we drive? Where do we work? If I have a business and I'm operating a business now, I got to give it to the government. Does the business continue to operate? How do I get paid? The government's going to pay me a universal basic income program. Does that mean I just get food stamps and enough to get by, kind of like communist society? This is where I started to become a little concerned as to how the government could ever implement this and not expect there to be riots and revolts and an overthrow of the actual government itself. I think even the military wouldn't stand for this.
The individual would also have to agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which will provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living even under a full lockdown. So if you agree, you can go do anything you're doing as long as you partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, regardless of the lockdown. Magically, you take this vaccine and boom, guess what? You don't have to social distance. You don't have to wear a mask anymore because you have already gotten your vaccines. All right. So this is unrestricted living even under a full lockdown through the use of a photo identification referred to as Canada's Health Pass. Committee members asked who would become the owner of the forfeited property and assets in that scenario, and what would happen to lenders or financial institutions. We were simply told the World Debt Reset Program will handle all of the details. So when they were asked what happens to the property and what happens to the banks, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it. That's what they were told. All right, and now it gets really, really.
So I'm guessing at this point it sounds like the IMF is telling you, hey, we'll write off your debt in exchange. We take everything. We take your country. We take your banks. We take your businesses. We take the entire everything. We take it all, and we'll pay you a paycheck after that for the rest of your life. I guess we still have to work. Obviously, people still have to work, but we work for a fixed amount. So kind of sounds like communism to me.
Interesting. Wow. Committee members asked who would become, I'm sorry, excuse me, I read that. Several committee members also questioned what would happen to individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program or the Health Pass or the vaccination schedule. The answer we got was very troubling. Essentially, we were told it was our duty to make sure we come up with the plan, meaning the Liberal Party was told that it was their duty to come up with a plan to ensure that would never happen. We were told it was in the individual's best interest to participate. When several committee members pushed relentlessly to get an answer, we were told that those who refused would first live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely, and that over a short period of time, as more Canadians transitioned into the debt forgiveness program, the ones who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities. Once in those facilities, they would be given two options: participate in the debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have all your assets seized. As you can imagine, after hearing all of this, it turned into quite the heated discussion and escalated beyond anything I've ever witnessed before. In the end, it was implied by the PMO that the whole agenda will move forward no matter who agrees with it or not. That it won't just be Canada, but in fact, all nations will have similar roadmaps and agendas. That we need to take advantage of the situations before us to promote change on a grander scale for the betterment of everyone.
Could you imagine this being applied in the US? With the amount of people with guns, they say, hey, yeah, we'll forgive your debt, but we're going to take every asset you own and give you a fixed paycheck, which you can't have no control over, no matter how hard you work. And not only that, if you don't do these vaccines, we're going to put you in an isolation camp. I mean, this is where it really gets kind of like, is this really, could they really implement this?
The members who were opposed and ones who brought up key issues that would arise from such a thing were completely ignored. Our opinions and concerns were ignored. We were simply told to just do it. All I know is that I don't like it, and I think it's going to place Canadians into a dark future.
So there you have it, folks. Now, this is allegedly a conversation that took place amongst the government parties or one of the government parties here in Canada, and it was imposed that this is what they see going forward, and that's disturbing to me. So leave your comments below. If you like the video, click the like button. If you want, subscribe to the channel and get notifications if you click the bell icon as to when I release new videos. Again, I want to be really clear. These are not my opinions, but it is important to be aware. It's important to be informed of what the potentials are and what could happen. We've never come across anything like this coronavirus before. And some people think, it's nothing, it's not that serious. And other people think, yeah, this is very, very serious. It really is a matter of perception, and your belief becomes your reality ultimately. So if the government does think that this is something that is so serious it could, devastate the population in terms of death toll or the economy in terms of just massive debt, would they take such dramatic measures as to move to a communist system of government to and take rule of under the IMF? I mean, the IMF's going to then own everything. They're going to control the banks, they'll control everything. So will this actually happen? I don't know. Is it even possible that could happen in this day and age where people are so much more informed and smarter as to what, how the world should work, and everybody's seeking, personal fulfillment and growth, and not just willing to work for, slave labor wages and what somebody says you're worth. I don't know if it's possible, but it is interesting. It's an interesting debate, worth a debate. Share the video, folks. Share it, retweet it, put it on Instagram, whatever you think. I think it's important that more people know what potentials are out there. Venezuelans didn't get on top of it before it actually happened, and look at where they're at now. Let's not let this happen here. Thank you very much, folks. I hope you felt this interesting.